Hi there, I'm Jake.
And I'm Ashley.
And we'd like to welcome you to the first instep of our game here at the Blind Eternities Tavern. Because after a long day, it's nice to just be able to sit back, relax, and enjoy a drink. So, every week, theoretically, moving forward, we're going to have one person pick a drink, another person pick some topics, and we're just going to talk about the state of magic and the state of gaming. So, let's get to it. Ashley, would you like to tell us what we're drinking today?
Yeah, this week I picked the drink and I picked the Black Manna, which is a kind of coffee cocktail. We got the recipe from Dungeon Meister, Drink Master's Guide, by Jeff Aldrich and John Taylor. So thank you guys, we're really excited about it. I took a sip already, so I can tell you it's pretty good. Yeah, so let's dive in. So this week I picked the drinks and Jake picked the topics. You want to get us started off on what we're talking about today?
Absolutely. You can tell I've taken notes on this very professional looking piece of printer paper in crayon. With birds drawn on the back by my 3-year-old. And the first topic that we're going to talk about is the new Commander brackets. So they put out a pretty significant update to this.
Yeah.
And I think have you heard about this, first of all?
Okay, so I knew we were doing this week. And so I was like, I'm intentionally not going to look at this. And I've been dying all week to know what's going on. So, no, I haven't. Very intentionally. Please tell me about it.
Cool. Okay, so the brackets before were built around the number of game changers that you had in your deck and kind of where precons fall along that scale.
Yeah.
They've gotten rid of all of that.
Okay. So wait, they just completely redid it. They're like, we're going to start from scratch?
Kind of.
Okay.
The intent is still there.
Okay.
But it's moved much more towards the intent and away from the hard rules.
Okay.
So bracket 1 no longer is so loosely defined. It puts down a few pretty specific descriptions, and of course this comes out right after I made a video about bracket 1. So that's all changed.
I really like, by the way.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But so bracket 1 is intended to be a showcase of fun stuff. The one limit that they did put on it is that the game should end at minimum turn 8.
Minimum turn. Okay,
so it should go longer than that.
So it needs to go long. Yeah. I understand.
And the idea is that you don't want anybody being knocked off before their deck has a chance to do something.
Okay.
Because occasionally, even when you're playing casual vampires, you're like, cool, I dropped this 8/8 on turn 4, and then in 3 turns, you've just eliminated one player with commander damage.
Gotcha. So Bowden's pirate deck super wouldn't qualify.
Yeah, so anything that's got like a really aggro fast strategy, it would be assumed that you wouldn't just focus down one person until they're out of the game, which is how Bowden plays.
Our son is 9. He's learning how to play Magic, and he has no decorum for, like, the social rules of Magic, like the soft rules.
Yeah.
And so what is best for his deck is to focus on one person so that he can steal all of their stuff and remove them from the game, and he does it very effectively. But now we know that is not bracket 1.
Yes.
Okay.
So bracket 2 probably changed more. Because bracket 1, that was always kind of the idea, but it was a little wishy-washy about whether the decks should even function or be entirely just to do something weird that doesn't win.
Right, yeah, build weird.
But bracket 2 no longer has anything to do with precons.
Okay.
And they are defining bracket 2 as the core casual commander experience.
Okay, I mean, I like the removal of precons because I think precons vary wildly.
There's a huge range, absolutely.
And it's just ridiculous to be like, hey, this precon against that one, where it's like very clear that there's a power separation.
Yes, and across time as well. If you have a precon from 2015 or 2016, you are not going to hold a candle to any of the 40k precons or one of the next precons.
Yeah.
Except for the Scry one. That one's kind of subpar.
Yeah.
But, so bracket 2 now focuses on kind of the way that your deck is built to function. So this should have a common theme. It should have a strategy. It should be able to execute that without a heavy reliance on extremely powerful cards.
Okay.
But the big notable exclusions from the brackets now, there was no limit on tutors.
Oh.
Because they've put all the good tutors in game changers.
Right.
They haven't added to the game changer list, but already all the good tutors are game changers.
Very true. So they're saying no game changers in bracket 2, or did I misunderstand?
Not explicitly.
Okay.
But it's one of those, if your game plan is to just jam tutors to find this one thing and do that thing every time, you're probably not hitting that, like, turn 6, turn 7, ending the game. You're probably moving a little bit faster than that. towards some sort of lockdown strategy or something.
So to confirm, so I have a mono black deck that's bracket 2. Is that still considered bracket 2? Because I will be devastated if it isn't.
Probably. Again, it kind of comes down to intent and the way that you were trying to win the game.
Right, so my Razakath line with the
some of those really heavy power engines are a little bit probably above bracket 2. They probably fall into that upgraded.
Dang it, I was so proud of that deck as a bracket 2 deck.
But I think your mono black deck is a good example of why they've changed this.
Because my mono black deck was like not a good representation of what bracket 2 was. Sorry, continue.
It didn't need game changers
to
get up to 10 mana and instantly end the game on like turn 5.
Yeah. The fact that they excluded so much of just the color black and some of the power cards in that, I think is just ridiculous. So I think that's a fair way to fix it to make it a little more wishy-washy. Yeah.
And one of the things that they do highlight is that the other tutors, like Diabolic Tutor or even Beseech the Queen, by the time you get to them, your opponents probably have answers for the things that you're tutoring for, and you're probably not doing both the tutor and the thing in the same turn. So it's more telegraphed.
Okay.
And so at bracket 2, the idea is that you can see the win coming.
Sure.
And so it's got less of that like, haha, I have the 2 pieces in my hand and I'm doing it all at once and ending the game. Bracket 3 is somewhere between that and having no pieces immediately. So bracket 3, they identify that there's no explicit game changer limit.
Okay.
But your game changers should be focused on building an engine or doing something on the table, rather than your game changers being entirely targeted at fast mana and tutors.
Okay. Sure. So they're limiting where you have your game changers, rather than limiting the total number of game changers.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. There is a weird thing about this new definition of brackets where there's now very little difference between the definition of bracket 4 and bracket 5.
I mean, let's be real. There was already very little difference.
It's true. But now I think the only difference that they explicitly state is this EDH metagame. And that your bracket 4 deck doesn't necessarily fall within that metagame or is prepared for that specific metagame.
Gotcha. So it's like specifically being built for CEDH, and that's what puts it bracket 5.
Yeah, I guess. I think that there's more overlap than they'd like to admit. And right now, it's always been said that there's like no steady on-ramp from low brackets up to CEDH, and it's a completely different game experience, and you can't just upgrade into it. You have to build it explicitly for CEDH. I don't think that's true anymore.
Yeah.
I think you can gradually upgrade a deck more and more and more and more as you add more fast mana, as you add more responsive interactive stuff, and it becomes CEDH.
I would argue that has also come along with the amount of product that they're releasing. I think that because you just kind of have access, besides the ban list, to all cards of Magic from all time, eventually I think CEDH is just moving closer and closer and closer to the good stuff from those things. So like the best fast mana plus the best draw and the best search is like kind of what makes up a majority of those decks. And control.
And I think one of the big things about the way that Magic design works is that they have this ceiling set on power creep. They don't want to make the game more powerful.
Right.
So they've already kind of defined these cards as benchmarks for as good as a thing can be.
Right.
But then as they have to print more cards and design new abilities and new ways of using it that are interesting but not above that threshold, they start filling out the space underneath. And you begin to have a very steady gradient all the way from bad card to CEDH card.
Totally.
And so now there's a lot more options for what you're doing. And we're kind of seeing that in the CEDH metagame where there's a lot of new commanders and new strategies that are showing up.
Yeah.
Except at the very top where it's all the same like 3 decks.
Totally. Yeah, and the thing that I would say about that is even though there's a lot of new commanders, I would still argue there's a lot of cards that you would recognize.
Sure.
So even if you've never seen the commander before, you might still be able to get a good read on what the deck actually runs in it based on looking at the ability of the commander. Yeah. You're like, oh, you're going to win with sauce. Like whatever it is. Like, every time you see a new
blue, red plus deck, you're like, oh, okay, so there's some sort of brain freeze through the Underworld Breach combo in there. No, you definitely have that in CEDH, but I think we're also seeing that a lot in bracket 4.
That's true.
Because there's no limit on game changers, so a lot of those combos are now creeping down into lower levels.
Sure. Would you say that then a lot of it is the way that you pilot those decks. Because I've noticed in CEDH, people, like, there is no pulling your punches. Like, you play the best that you can at all times. And I think in bracket 4 or in lower brackets, there's this expectation that you're not going to just be intentionally mean.
Sure.
Or, like, you know what I mean? Like, there's a little bit more...
I see that.
I don't know. There's some, like, more social expectation that you will let the game go longer. Mm-hmm. Or if you have the win, like, there's, like... You're a little less sweaty about it.
Yeah, and the turn limit for wins on bracket 4, I think they said turn 4 should be the minimum of when you're winning in bracket 4. Mm-hmm. But a lot of times that's where CEDH decks are winning anyways.
Yeah.
So that even that's not a huge differentiator.
That CEDH is starting to run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think there's a certain etiquette in CDH also to the amount of removal that a deck should run and the responsibility of everyone at the table to know what they're doing and being able to play the game that doesn't exist in bracket 4 and leads to weirder mismatches.
True. Yeah.
But I think that is a detriment to bracket 4 rather than speaking to the success of bracket 5.
That's fair. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think there's also a fundamental misunderstanding of a deck being in bracket 4, but how variable the power levels in that could be.
Yeah.
And I think part of that is like whether or not you're okay with proxies.
Yeah, I think the proxy thing is also a big part of this discussion. They didn't bring it up in the article, but the fact that they are taking a lot of the restraints off of which cards you're allowed to run in different brackets makes me think that they got a lot of pushback against restricting some of these expensive cards in lower brackets where people want to use the cool things that they have.
Yeah.
But now with proxies being so prevalent, you have people that are just running Rhystic Study in every single deck with blue, and they're running Smothering Tithe in every deck with white, just because they can print 10 copies of it and run it everywhere.
Totally. I have a very strong opinion on this that also kind of goes along with the video that you just released. Well, it kind of derails this conversation.
Fair.
It's okay. We'll come back to it. Maybe. We'll see.
Okay.
We'll see if we have time.
Okay,
Continue
sounds
with
good.
what you're saying, because I don't want to just be like, we're talking about this now. But yeah. Mm-hmm.
So with these brackets and the way they have this set up, there's a couple big changes that they made to the Game Changers list. And I think it speaks to the way that they see the brackets being used.
Okay.
And I think it's very different from the way that a lot of people are using the brackets.
Explain.
Normally you sit down at a table with your pod and you say, what bracket are we playing?
Yes.
They've reframed that conversation a little bit.
Okay.
By removing Kinnan, Urza, Winota, and Yuriko from the Game Changers list.
Those aren't Game Changers anymore.
Those are no longer Game Changers. Braids is still there.
Huh.
Because Braids is stupid even in the 99.
Braids
it's
really
just
fun.
a ridiculous card.
I ran a Braids deck because I'm terrible.
But
as soon as it got unbanned, I was like, yes, that's mine. Thank you.
It's a really...
There's a reason I picked Black Mana as our drink tonight.
Yes. This is a very Braids drink.
It's a
I
very
think she would like
me drink. Yes.
activated charcoal and vanilla.
And coffee.
And coffee.
So
yes.
much. Let's be real. If you look at Braids,
you can see it in the eyes. Absolutely.
Yeah, she's like...
Absolutely. But their explanation for removing these cards is if somebody takes out their commander and says, I'm playing Kinnan, you know what to expect.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that moves the discussion of brackets to after that. Where you'd say, these are the commanders I'm using, and then you say, okay, well, if you're running Kinnan, then I'm actually going to swap out my Treefolk tribal deck for, my Gitrog Thalia and the Gitrog monster value engine that's going to be able to keep up.
Totally. I think that makes a lot of sense, because I think that there's this issue that I've seen happen playing with a variety of people at our local game store. Our local game store is amazing. Shout out to Steve at Lost Levels in Claremont. Incredible store. You should check it out. Anyway, I think this, and I say like at our local game store, but I'm pretty sure it's any local game store where somebody will come in, they're new, they don't really know kind of like what the play level is. And so then we have this bracket conversation, and brackets can kind of vary in power levels also. Yeah. For example, my mono black deck is a bracket 2 according to the old bracket system. I don't know what it would be considered now, but it was bracket 2, but I would call it like an 8 or a 9 on much further back.
I think it's a little bit down from that. Just
well,
a lot
I
of the
have
tutors
downgraded. Yeah, I downgraded it with the tutors, but like when it does the thing that it does, it's a surprise.
Yeah.
And it pretty consistently wins. Like even in bracket 3 games.
Well, it's got a level of inevitability to it.
It's true.
Where if you don't knock it out before like turn 7, it just ends the game.
Yeah.
But I do think it's like a really solid bracket 3. I think that is kind of where it falls.
Yeah,
That's what it feels
but
like.
technically it was bracket 2.
Yeah.
And so we would get this thing where people would show up and they'd be like, oh, I'm playing pre-cons. And then we'd play a pre-con and their pre-con was way more powerful than our pre-con. Or they'd be like, I'm playing bracket 2, but then it was like super powered, like as powerful as you can bracket 2.
I've played against bracket 2 Shorikais.
Yeah.
That go infinite on turn 4.
Yeah.
Oh,
and it's just like, all right. And so it was kind of one of those things where like, that conversation is not super helpful, especially if somebody is gaming the system and shows up like, I'm gonna win and show off. And so like, it's definitely one of those things where I feel like it's helpful to have like, I've got my power bracket too for like if someone shows up and they're swinging power, and I've got my like built weird bracket 2 deck, right?
Yeah, because like, I think you can build an Urza deck
Totally.
with just like 40 islands and then 10 artifacts of each mana cost from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay, yeah.
And you have an extremely functional, oppressive Urza deck.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't need anything to get going.
It's true.
And Kennen is kind of the same thing, where you just need mana. You need a bunch of stuff that makes mana, and then you run, like, Hullbreaker Horrors and stuff. And same thing with Winota and Yurko. Like, these decks do one thing, and they do it really well. And I think that is just something that needs to be part of that discussion up front.
I agree.
And the purpose of the brackets is to give you language to talk about how you want the game to go, rather than try to constrain, this deck is a bracket 4, you'd say I'm going to play this deck as a bracket 2. It's built to do this thing that's lower.
Yeah. And that's something that, okay, so the old system, not perfect system, but like that's why the bracket system came out. But I also don't love the bracket system.
Yeah.
I feel like for me it never caught on because I built my decks pre-bracket system. And so it required thought for me of being like, well, this is technically like this bracket, but like it kind of plays to power of this bracket. And it was one of those things where like that didn't feel like a productive conversation to me. And so like people would show up, especially like bracket high 3, low 4 is what a lot of people would say.
Yeah.
And that feels very much like my deck's a 7. And it's just like, that didn't change the conversation at all. So like it was still, I'd rather have that like productive conversation of like, do you run fast mana? Are you running control? Do you have 2-card combo? Like tell me what your deck does. Don't give me your bracket. So I'm curious to see if the update supports that conversation more, or if it's still just like, this is a bracket 4, no additional information.
I predict that it will change nothing, because people just plug their deck list in on Moxfield and say, oh look, I'm a bracket 3. One of the things that kind of feeds into that system, though, is the other things they removed from the Game Changers list.
What do they remove?
There's 4 additional cards.
Well, we know not braids.
Well, Expropriate, which is everyone votes on extra turns or stealing permanents.
Yeah.
Genjitaxis, which is everyone discards their hand except for me. I draw an extra 7. Was this Sway the Stars?
Okay, what's that do?
Start the game over at 7 life.
They removed that from the game changer.
It's no longer on the game changer.
Let me change the game, but that's not a game changer. Okay, cool.
And then the last one is Vornaclex, which is my lands produce 2, your lands only tap every other turn.
Oh, okay.
The reason they did that is because all of these cards are like 8+ mana. And the idea is if you get to that, congratulations, you did it. Yeah.
That's very much I feel like at 8, you should be able to do whatever you want. By turn 8, you should be online with as mean, as powerful as you want, run whatever combos. If it costs you 8 mana, go for it.
Right. It only becomes a problem when you have somebody who's on like Hashaton.
Sure.
And is going turn 2, discard Genjitaxis, everyone discards your hand.
Totally.
That's where it gets a little bit overboard. But I think that's also a discussion for before the game starts. Like, this is the thing my deck has the capability of doing. And because of that, I think that people need to talk a little bit more before the game begins about their win cons and strategies there.
Yeah, I would agree. I've noticed, I think prior when it was like the gradient system of 1 to 10, people were much better at like having full conversations, and I feel like since the bracket system was introduced at all, it became just bracket.
Yeah.
And so
it's because Wizards said this is a 4 or 2 or
Wizards
whatever.
doesn't make the rules. We made Commander. Yeah, they took it back. Well, they took it back, but we made made Commander. All I'm saying is community can kind of do what community wants to do.
Yeah, and I mean, ultimately it is a casual format, so it's a little bit flexible, and you can change it far beyond what they've stated here.
Right.
But yeah, the changes here go really far. There's also 2 other cards they removed from the list, Food Chain and Deflecting SWAT.
Okay, I'm actually most surprised by Food Chain.
Yeah, I'm surprised by Food Chain as well, but I think it's just because if you're not using it as a combo piece, it is just kind of a weird value engine.
That's true. Yeah,
So,
okay, that is
whatever.
something that I'm concerned about just in general, about the way that Magic bans cards.
Yeah.
It feels like I wish... We've talked about this a lot, where
Yeah.
they're like, I wish there was like some sort of point system or some other way to do things. I know that's not the right answer, but like...
I think
it
it's pretty
feels-
close. No, I like pointed.
I like it, but like it feels like there's a bunch of things that like are banned that feel silly to be banned in all situations. Like my example is Grizzlebrand, but that's because I'm biased. I got the Liliana Secret Lair and I'm obsessed with it, and it makes me so angry that I can't just run Grizzlebrand in the 99. Because yes, it's a power card, but it's like 8 mana.
Yeah.
And I'm not running fast mana really in that deck. Like I don't get started until turn 4. So if you win turn 4, I'm out.
Yeah.
So generally, I am playing Grizzlebrand at cost.
Yeah, sure.
And so, like, for me, it feels silly that that's banned. But I understand why they had to ban him, because as a commander, he is broken.
Yeah.
And, like, in a lot of situations, like, if you can get to him quickly, he's broken, or if you build your deck around him. You know, so, like, I get it, but, like,
Right.
I just wish that there were other ways of banning things. Like, I feel like in 60-card formats, they have, like, limited things, where it's, like, you can only run, like, 1 of this instead of the 4.
Yeah.
And I wish I know that that's a lot harder to do in Commander.
Well, they also only do restricted cards in Vintage.
That's
It's
true.
not a thing in all of Magic.
That's very fair. But like it exists.
Yeah, and I'd like to see it more. I think it's a good mechanism for limiting what decks can do.
Without completely banning cards that I think are really interesting and make games interesting, unless they're like intentionally like broken. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, do you want to hear my very strong opinions? Do you have more to say about the bracket system?
Well, there were a few more things that they mentioned on that, but it's not strictly bracket related, it's more Commander in general.
Okay, I have a thought on Commander in general that I want to bring up based kind of on bracket.
Okay, start with that.
Okay, so Jake made this video on bracket 1 decks, and I loved it, but I don't think for the reason that he made the video originally. I loved it because it was talking about building weird. And I started, I feel like, kind of at the end of Kitchen Table Magic.
Sure.
When I started playing Magic, it was like 2011, 2012. Like, I think I learned end of 2011 and started actually playing like in 2012. But that was kind of the time when I noticed there was kind of this drive to sometimes see lists online. And I noticed that when people picked lists from online, it seemed really powerful. And it was like, this is really cool. And that became like the norm.
Yeah.
And so that was my experience playing Magic, is it's the norm to just find a list online or to build a list and then look online to see what other people have done with that and be like, oh, this is the way that you build this.
Scouring
or,
the EDH rec and stuff.
Yeah, and then like people have access to buying all these cards online also.
Yeah.
Right, from like different places. And so like there's a term that I learned like 2 years ago because I'm a baby. But you taught me this term, net decking.
Yes.
And it was something that like OG people apparently used. You explain it. What is net decking, Jake?
Oh no,
tell us.
You're right. It is just getting a deck list off the internet and building that deck in paper.
Yeah, and explain to us like what that used to be, because now that's the norm.
Yeah,
but that
absolutely.
was not always the norm, right? So how was net decking perceived when you first started playing Magic?
I started playing Standard in like 2004 or 2005, and so there were already articles and stuff online for this. But the convention was still, you want to build something unique and special. And if you're going to Friday Night Magic, this isn't a regionals tournament. You know, this isn't a Pro Tour qualifier. This is just a casual hang out with friends and do that. And so if somebody showed up with a deck that was one of these lists that's performing well in the Pro Tour, people would get upset. And I remember playing in, like, it was around when Kamigawa was out, and there was a combo deck that just made a ton of mana using, I think, Early Harvest or something like that.
Yeah.
And then you'd funnel all of that mana into a big X spell to one-shot your opponent. I've gotten up to the point where I milled a guy out, 60 plus mana, and then just mill 60 cards.
Yeah.
But that's what the deck did. And I took some ideas from an article that I saw online, but apparently the deck that I had made was extremely close to one that had just won a thing. And I actually had someone quit the tournament after playing against me. Just like, this is stupid. Just, slam deck back into deck box and walk out of the store. And that was kind of the perception at the time. It was like, if you did that, this isn't you. You were just playing someone else's brainchild.
Yeah, like you're a net decker. How dare you? It's derogatory. And now it's not. And so I think that it should be a little bit derogatory. I think when you're learning to play Magic, totally valid. And I think it's also kind of one of those things where if you're playing competitively, of course, you want to see what the meta is, you want to do the thing. But I think that we've lost this vibe of kitchen table Magic.
Yeah.
And bracket 1 is sort of this, you introduce this idea of like build weird, right? Like build a theme. Think about like how you can do that. And it doesn't need to be not powerful. It just needs to be okay with not being the most powerful deck at the table. And that's fine. Right? Because I think it gives us... Well, you didn't say that, but I'm saying that. Yeah. That's fair. I'm saying that. Because I think it gives us this opportunity to explore the really weird parts of Magic and the esoteric things that exist that are funny and interesting and crazy and, like, don't really work in modern Magic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because there's times that I show up with my... Like, I, again, started playing in, like, 2012. I haven't been playing forever. I've been playing for, what? Oh, I guess... 13 years?
Yeah.
I've been playing for a long time.
That's a while.
No, but like I consistently play with people who have been playing much longer than me.
I'm old.
But like in my mono black deck, I run Necropotence.
Yeah.
Which is an old, esoteric, no longer super good black card. Am I thinking of the wrong thing?
You're definitely thinking of the wrong
what
thing.
am I thinking of?
Fraying Omnipotence?
No. I'm thinking of the everything dies, I bring one thing back.
Necromantic Selection.
Don't judge me. I don't remember names.
Necropotence, the single most powerful card in black.
I'm also running that in my Braids deck because I'm a bad person.
It is the strongest card in black. Fight me.
It is the strongest card. It's very much so. Anyway, Necromantic Selection is the card I was thinking of. It's
absolutely.
like, what, like 7, 8 mana?
Yeah.
Okay, so it says 7, 8 mana, destroy all creatures, regenerate, or bring back one creature that was put into the graveyard this way. It allows you to steal commanders.
Yes, it does.
It's
one of the only cards that does. It's
so
really
cool. Anyway, we can talk about the rules at some point, but we're not going to do that right now. But like, that's something where I played that recently. It's not good. Nobody really runs it. I run it in my mono black deck because whatever, but it's like kind of an older black card and it's not on the list of like best black cards that people are running. And I played it with a player who's been playing for like 4 years, 5 years, and they're like, what is this card? Right? And like, to me, there's just something so special about
absolutely.
Like, what are you doing? That's like so cool. So sorry, I didn't mean to take over the conversation. The moral of the story is I miss kitchen table Magic. I wish more people played weird. And I love this idea of creativity in Magic. And I see you constantly brewing weird esoteric decks that sometimes really work and sometimes like kind of work.
Yeah, well, sometimes they need one card to resolve or the deck actually does nothing. Yeah.
But like, moral of the story, it's always really interesting. Yeah. So like, and that's something I really enjoy seeing. And I wish that I saw more, but I think that it's so common to look up decks online now that people don't feel comfortable making a deck without checking online first.
Yeah.
And so I would encourage people, I think, to, especially in like bracket 1, bracket 2, like challenge yourself to not go online. Don't look up cards online. Go to your local game store, build a deck based on what's there, based on what you have, based on your collection. I don't know, but figure it out. Try to do it without the internet. And I think that would help a lot of people get a lot better at building decks and being creative in the way that they build. Thank you for humoring my tangent. This is your informational episode.
Oh, that's okay.
I'm sorry. I needed to rant. I have feelings. Go ahead.
Oh, it's okay. If we're going to put forward some hotter takes on brackets, I'm of the opinion that if you put proxy cards in your deck, you've kind of removed the limiter on what you can put into your deck. And so you're basically a bracket 4.
I would say that's true. Okay. We gonna get hot.
Oh yeah, I know.
Here's the deal. I agree to an extent.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there's definitely like a limit to that. I think that there is a way to do that without removing the limit. So if you are proxying, you make the rule that you have to already own that card and you want to play test a deck, or you're doing something like your Batman deck where you're like taking cards that exist. Your Batman deck is a terrible example.
It's a CEDH deck, yeah.
But like, what's your Adventure Time deck? Is that what bracket's that?
I'd call it's a 3 or 4, depending on what cards I have entered or not.
But the premise, right? Like if you want to build an interesting theme deck and you want to proxy it based on that theme, go for it. If you're like, hey, I already own this card and I don't want to have to like switch it back and forth between these decks, sure. So I think there's a way to do that. You can like limit yourself to a budget. If you're building a lot of decks and you're like, I'm building a $50 deck, but I'm going to proxy it because I still don't, whatever.
But I still think that there is just like, I can't put a Bayou in all of my decks because I only own one. There's like 15 other lands that tap for black and green, and they're not all true dual lands. But you can just run any of those. Temple of Maladies like 50 cents or less.
That's true.
And you just throw it in everything. I think that you can build decks that are less powerful and not worry about that. The issue that I see is when people are building bracket 2 decks, but because they are proxying everything, it has a perfect mana base, technically doesn't have any game changers, but it's running these other $600 cards as proxies. Like, it stops being a bracket 2 deck. Run the subpar stuff. Build a deck that's janky.
Build a mono black deck that runs only swamps. And a Bajuka Bog.
Yeah, right?
No, it's true. I think that's super fair. And I think there is something to be said about being limited by a thing. Can I say something, though, that makes me a hypocrite?
What's that?
I'm married into my collection. So I never had the issue in the same way of, like, I don't have this thing. Because a lot of the time, like, again, you've been playing since, what, 1997?
Something like that. Probably 98? Started collecting in 99, yeah.
Sure, okay. Started collecting in 99. And then I came into it in, like, 2011. Right? So you had this massive backlog of cards.
Yeah.
So I think that it's a little disingenuous for us to be like, no, only use the cards in your collection.
No, I know.
Because it makes people who have larger collections have this ability that other people don't.
Yeah.
But I think there are other ways to limit yourself, and being aware of the fact that you're using proxies is like step 1.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think that's more what it is just if you were sitting down to proxy, it's so easy to go on like NPC fill or something and just load it up with all of the best stuff in it. And
so what you're
building
saying
realistically
is
for a
don't
strategy.
proxy lands.
Kinda.
Yeah, don't proxy lands. That feels like a good starting point.
I think mana bases is like one of the most underrated aspects of power in the game.
I would agree.
Where just by having a perfect mana base, you significantly increase the consistency and power level of your deck.
It's true. I have a blue-black mill deck, and I think I've hamstrung myself because I run primarily swamps and
It's all basics, yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah. And then I also run subpar lands that tap for blue and black. So, yeah, I do. I think that that's also one of the things I would say the bracket system doesn't address very well currently. Is the, like, how built is your mana base?
Sure.
Because, like, yeah, if we're looking at, like, a pyramid, it's called a mana base for a reason. It's the base of the pyramid, right? Like, that's the foundation of how powerful is your deck going to be. So if you have a deck, you want to make it more powerful, upgrade your mana base, you're going to go pretty far with making your deck a lot more powerful. But, yeah, I think that's a fair and valid point. Like, just be aware of what you're doing when you proxy.
And I'll say that's not a thing that's across the board. But there's been a lot of times where I play against somebody and they're like, is it okay if I play with proxies? And it's like, yeah, sure. I don't really care. But then it's like, fetch, dual land, Esper Sentinel. Go. Yeah. It's like, okay, cool. Like.
Yeah, and that's not a problem if you get like the God Hand, but when they're drawing that consistently, that level, that's when you're like, I may have over proxied.
So, speaking of big changes that could potentially come to Commander.
Yes.
The other things that they brought up in that article were new potential bans. And the 2 cards that were named were Rhystic Study and Thassa's Oracle.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's spicy.
CEDH targeted.
Ooh, did the price
Directly.
immediately drop on those cards?
Probably didn't change. They said they're not going to touch them until February, so it'll be stable till then.
So sell them
But
before February.
also, I don't think they're real problems. The way they talk about Ristic, they were saying it's such a fundamental part of EDH. It's like Soul Ring. It's something to be expected. I think it completely changes the way the game works and puts one person squarely in the lead as soon as they're able to get that card on the board at any turn in the game.
Hot take. I think Ristic Study is primarily a problem if you're playing in a group that's bad at Magic.
Fair.
Because
I agree.
If you're
Absolutely.
good at Magic, you recognize that card draw is a quarter of a turn, essentially. A quarter might be too much, but like it's a significant portion of the turn. And if you are giving people multiple opportunities for draw outside of their draw step, you're putting them turns ahead.
Yes.
So if you're in a pod of 4 and 2 out of those 4 people are letting that guy draw, they're just like, yeah, you can have the game, it's fine.
And I think the big problem comes when you look at the high-powered tables, when every game is 2 Ristic Studies, a copy of Ristic Study, an Esper Sentinel, and a Mystic Remora in play at the same time, and everyone's drawing so many cards that you get this counter war with every single thing that's done.
Yeah.
And it just becomes very complex.
Yeah.
One of the big complaints about Commander is that it's complex, and it's cards like this that give you access to so many cards at a time.
I would agree.
That increase the complexity of the game.
Yes. That's also why I built my Braids deck. I'm only a kind of terrible person.
Reduce complexity.
Yeah, well, okay, so we play CEDH at our local game shop, and it's something that, like, we started playing often. I built a Sisay deck. I love my Sisay deck. It's so fun. I feel like I have answers all the time. It feels like a toolbox. I can kind of do whatever I want. But the mental load that goes into playing Sisay, I have to pay attention to what everyone is doing all of the time. Yes. Do you know what I don't have to do when I play Braids? Pay attention to anything. I don't have any counter spells in that deck.
Yes.
I sit there and say, sacrifice, sacrifice, sacrifice. Does it resolve? Great, your turn. And it's so easy. And it doesn't win a lot. I'm going to be so real. But it pisses people off. And I love the power.
Absolutely.
Okay, sorry. Yeah. But yeah, no, I agree with that. I think that, like, it does make the game more complex, and it requires building to that level of complexity. Because as much as I love my Braids deck, and it does do things, and I have won at CEDH tables by getting incredibly lucky. Shush. It's great. I love it. It's not good.
It can win.
It can win, and it has. Especially when people think it can't win.
Yeah, when it gets left alone.
Yeah, when people are like,
well.
oh, she's not going to do anything. It's like, that's right, until I do. But anyway, the moral of the story is, like, I agree. I think that there is some level of, like, I see that they're trying to lower the complexity level. Yeah, and I think that would be fixed by points. Again.
Yeah. Yeah, if you could limit kind of the combinations of cards you get in your decks, I think that solves a lot of these problems.
Yeah, because if you only have a Ristic Study, then yes, I mean the only Ristic Study. But like, you know what I mean? Like if it's just one, somebody counters it, it's gone.
Yeah.
Right? But then if you're playing a Ristic Study, an Esper Sentinel, a Mystic Remora, a One Ring, like you're running all of the card draw, then I don't have 4 counters, I have 2 counters. And like I have to be very strategic with how I use them because that's an eventual win, but that person has a win on the table.
Yeah.
Right.
And I will say one of the big complaints that I have about Commander right now is that people don't run enough enchantment removal.
Yes.
Because enchantments just sit and play forever. But I think a lot of that is because of cards like Ristic Study where they're so impactful as an enchantment. Most enchantments don't do anything. But you have just a few that completely dominate the game once they're in play.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, and then in terms of the process, I think there's so many backups for it that banning it won't do anything. So I don't see these cards going anywhere, but I think they need a better solution.
I think the problem is like running removal for enchantments. I don't, correct me if I'm wrong, because in my brain I don't run enchantment wins. I think when you're running...
You literally do. Your mono black deck is an enchantment
not
win.
in CEDH though.
Well, okay, sure.
Not in games where enchantments are that impactful.
Underworld Breach is your big CEDH enchantment win.
Yeah, that's true. But like then you just counter it and it doesn't come into play. Right, though, but that's like what I'm
Just
saying.
counter it, stupid.
No, but that's what I'm saying, is like,
Sure.
if it's something, the thing is, people don't see these as your win conditions. So they want to play cards that counter the majority of win conditions.
Yeah.
And yes, they're going to counter the Mystic Grimoire if they have the extra counter spell to do so, because it stops you from getting ahead. But they don't think of it as like, this is your win condition, because it's not. It's not like your specific win condition. It just gets you there faster.
Sure.
Right, and so it's the don't counter the search, counter the thing you searched for.
Yeah.
If you can. So like, I think it's that mindset where like people aren't running enchantment removal because instead they've chosen to run counters to the things that will make you win.
Yeah, I think it leads to weird situations also though, where it's a multiplayer format.
Yeah.
So you're like, I'm going to cast this and I'm not going to pay the one because I need you to draw a card because I need you to have an answer to this thing. And you get these weird team-up situations that skew the game.
I agree, but I also think that that's a fundamental part of Commander.
Sure.
Right? Because, like, I have only ever played Commander consistently. I played...
What do you mean?
Like, okay.
Oh, in terms of no other formats.
In terms of formats.
Yeah.
Like, I have 60 card decks, and, like, I have a standard deck.
Yeah.
But, like, consistently, since... I was going to say my conception as a Magic player, since I was a bit of a Magic player... Anyway, since I started playing Magic, Commander has always existed. And so to me, a fundamental part of the game is that, right? It is that politicking. And I strategize a lot based on that politicking. A lot of my decks very much are like, don't do anything until I win. And I intentionally don't look scary so I can politic people not coming after me, both in CEDH and in not CEDH.
Yeah.
And it's something that's very effective for me because I'm a lady. Tell me I'm wrong.
I know. You definitely use that to your advantage.
Yeah, especially with new people.
It's terrible.
Don't underestimate ladies. We will wreck you.
God. I'll give you one more time.
I have won tournaments because people are like, I'm not going to attack you because you're a lady. And I'm like, thank you. I'm going to kill you next turn.
but like, oh, that's all I'm saying. It's like, I see where you're coming from, and it does suck to get ganged up on. But I think that is part of strategizing. It's an important part of what makes EDH such an interesting aspect of playing Magic.
Yeah. But you also run into the problem if you have that one person at the table that's like, I'm going to cast 6 cantrips and let them draw 6 times.
It's true.
It's just like, you just threw the game.
That's
like,
what I'm saying,
You're not doing anything.
Right. But that's what I'm saying. Ristic Study
and Mystic are both correct.
Grimoire
yes, absolutely.
are only scary if you're playing in a group of bad Magic players. Right? Because like what you were saying previously about like the strategy of I need you to draw something to counter them is very different than I'm going to let you draw 6 cards because I'm going to do stuff on my turn.
Yeah.
You know,
that's true. Those are different
things, right? And so I think one is a problem, and I think one is part of playing Commander.
But this is also the difference between CEDH and casual Magic.
That's true.
Where this ban list has to cater to new players as well. And some of these gameplay experiences are poor.
Yeah.
When you have that interaction on the table. That's why Biorhythm is banned. Biorhythm is not a good card. It's never going to see play at competitive tables. But losing out of nowhere because you just happen to not have a creature, that's a problem.
Is Chains of Mephistopheles banned?
I don't think it's even on the Game Changers list.
So it's just there.
It might be, but it's...
For some reason in my brain it was, just because it was so complicated. Am I misremembering?
It's a lot. I have it in my CEDH deck. It's a great
Okay, gotcha.
It might be on the Game Changers list. It probably should be, but it's just... I don't know that it's even good in regular Magic. It shuts down decks that want to draw a whole bunch in one turn.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Okay. I was just curious.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Cool.
I had thoughts.
Yeah. So I'd love to see a pointed list, like you were saying, for this. I think that solves a lot of problems.
How would you feel about a specific ban list for competitive EDH and a separate one for EDH?
I dislike that.
Why?
Because I think then you would have a competitive tier show up in what of the casual ban list is. So then you'd have a competitive version of the casual ban list and a competitive version of the competitive ban list.
It's true.
And you're artificially bisecting the format for no reason.
That's true. This is a perfect example of we as a community do what we want. Wizards doesn't actually make the rules. They just give us the pieces.
Yeah. But I don't like the idea of having a separate ban list for competitive.
Final question. What about banned as commander?
I actually really like Band as Commander. I'd love to see that come back. But again, I think this highlights how they want to let most things be Commander and have that conversation start with how different commanders match up against each other.
That's fair. I do really appreciate this fundamentally as attempting to make sure that as many cards as possible are legal.
Yes. Yeah, and I think there's still things on the ban list that can probably come off and become game changers or become part of that discussion rather than being a hard ban, just because they're not useful at competitive tables. So if you make like a tier 2 game changers list that can only be used at bracket 4 or something, then you'd have fewer problems. Yeah. But I don't know that they're actually going to go that far. They've kind of committed to the ban list and the philosophy behind the ban list as they have it.
That's really valid.
Yeah. But there is one last thing.
Yes, what did you have to talk about? I'm sorry.
And this is the hybrid mana question.
What does that mean?
So, different cards have hybrid mana symbols.
Oh, okay.
And so now they're toying with the idea of taking something that is hybrid between 2 colors and allowing it to be used in one of those colors. So instead of that symbol representing both colors, it is an either or.
So they're moving towards, what's that called? Like extort. Where it says black-white, but it doesn't count because it's in a reminder text.
Yeah, sort of. The reminder text thing is...
Is it kind of the reminder text concept where it's like, yeah, both are represented, but it's not...
Well, not quite, because like Deathrite Shaman is a green-black hybrid mana cost card.
Sure.
But it has a green mana symbol and a black mana symbol in its text box.
Right.
So it is explicitly a green-black identity card.
Yes.
But then you have something like Scuzzbag Marauders, which has a red-green hybrid mana symbol in the cost.
Right. Does that not currently make it a... What did you say? Green?
Right now, it would be a red-green card.
Red-green, yeah.
They're saying you might be able to run it in a mono-green deck.
Right, and so that's what I'm saying, is they take hybrid mana, and they're saying actually hybrid mana symbols.
Yeah, just all hybrid mana symbols works like that. But the reason why Extort doesn't is because it's not text on the card.
Right, it's reminder text. But that's what I'm saying is like... It's also kind of the green... It's the hybrid mana symbol. So they're just taking all the hybrid mana symbols and saying that rule that we used for...
Yeah, identity.
I think we're going to extend it here because it makes sense because you should be able to run it in a mono whatever deck because you're not required to have this additional mana.
Yeah.
Can you...
But then it opens up the question of...
Sorry.
Beseech the Queen. Can you run that in any color deck? Because you can cast it for 6 colorless.
No. Because it's not specifically waste, in my opinion. I think you shouldn't. Because colorless is not a color.
You're going colorless to generic as the distinction?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think if it was like specifically colorless mana, then it's like it is actually hybrid mana, but it's not hybrid. It's black, or you can just use colorless mana. It's not like this or this other specific thing. That's not hybrid. That's black. Don't steal my card from me.
It was in the article as a specific thing that they were talking about.
Well, that's rude of them, and I don't like it. I think that the people who made that article don't know what they're talking about.
Ah, yes. Well, you can take
the people that make the rules of Magic.
It's the people that make the rules of Commander. This was the Commander Summit, so it's a lot of community leaders coming together to talk about this. It wasn't explicitly Wizards of the Coast, even though this is sanctioned by Wizards of the Coast now as the new rules structure.
Wasn't the rules committee disbanded in Wizards of the Coast? There was drama around that.
Yeah, there was. It was a whole thing, but now it's kind of reformed under the Wizards umbrella, so they have some say in it, but it is still composed of community members, broadly. So it's like Attack on Cardboard and a bunch of other people online.
Ah, so it's a republic. Instead of the
okay, we're not going to get into the different governing styles of the rules committee.
Sure.
But personally, I don't care for this hybrid mana distinction. I think that already there's a big tendency in Commander to make your deck of a bunch of different colors, and it all just gets kind of soupy because everyone's running the same stuff. Now, if you can run cards like, was it Vexing Shusher, in anything that has green or anything that runs red, you're going to see it in more decks just because it shuts down counters. And I'd like to see that if you're going to go with color identity, it should feel like color identity. It should be restrictive.
I have a question.
What's that?
Does color identity exist fundamentally in the rules in any other format?
Nope.
Right. So if we're playing Commander and it cares so much about color identity, I lean towards you're correct. However, if we're allowing Wizards of the Coast to make the rules for us, they should follow the rules of the rest of their game.
Then Sisay is a mono white deck.
I agree.
It is an unplayable mono white deck.
Take away my sister. No, but like, that's not what they follow in the rest of Magic.
Correct.
Color identity, you can play any cards. It's going to get worse because you're having to divide your mana base. Right?
Theoretically, there's so many multicolored lands now.
I don't
it no
disagree
longer
with
is
you.
a drawback.
My point is there's no rule against splashing a color just for fun.
True.
That's what I'm saying. So, yeah, no, you can, whatever you want to say about Sisay, if I'm going by the rules of any other format, I can run Sisay as a 5-color deck.
Yeah.
Right? And Commander made up color identity because it wanted something interesting and it wanted to create a theme, and I get that. But, like, if we're letting, this is a hot take, if we're letting Wizards of the Coast be the rules committee for Commander, I would argue they have to change that rule to align with every single other format that they have.
I don't think that's the rule.
Hot take.
Yeah.
From Ashley. I told you it was a hot take. I get where you're coming from, and I don't necessarily disagree with you. I think there's already too many instances, especially in CEDH, of just running mush because it's the best thing to run, and I think that's what you're concerned about.
There's been a lot of cases in Standard where every deck is splashing one color for one card.
Yeah.
And I think we'd see that a lot in Commander, because everyone's already running, like, City of Brass in their 3-color decks.
Totally.
So you might as well run those last 2 colors. One of the decks that consistently wins any of those, like, weird everything has partner championships is any sort of combination of Derevi and Najeela.
Yeah.
Just because Derevi in 5 colors is scary, Najeela with extra untapping and stuff, you can put 2-card combos in there. Being able to pair up extra colors into a commander really changes the landscape. And if you can run Underworld Breach in anything, you'd run it in everything.
You're not wrong. Okay. From a play perspective, from a looking at the game and what makes a better experience for people and what creates more diversity in decks, I agree. So, the better perspective. However, from the Wizards' perspective...
You don't need to play devil's advocate for Wizards.
I'm just telling you, it aligns with the rest of their formats. I'm just saying, like, I see why they're pushing for that decision.
Yeah.
It also lets them sell more cards.
Well, I think they're doing it because Lorwyn's coming up. There's going to be a lot of hybrid mana in Lorwyn. And it's going to feel kind of bad to have these black-white cards that are hybrid mana and telling new players, no, you can't use that in a white deck because it's white and black. Is kind of confusing because it's white or black. Like, explicitly, that's how
So you mean exactly what I just said? They want to sell more cards?
Well, yeah, but I think... Yes. Yeah. You're right. You are absolutely correct.
I think you're right, though, in terms of, like, gameplay.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think, personally, I would prefer they not do that.
Yeah.
I think that they feel obliged to do that because it will align with the rest of the stuff that they own. And we have accidentally given Magic the Gathering control of a format that was originally a community format.
Yeah.
And so I think over time, unfortunately, it is going to shift to be a little bit more reflective of the other formats they have. Because we already see them trying to push people back into Standard. True. Right? And...
Unsuccessfully.
Right, but like if they start moving Commander closer to Standard...
Sure.
It's less of a gap. Right, and I don't know that that's necessarily why they're doing it. I still think it's because they want to sell more cards, and I think you brought up a really good point with Lorwyn. But I'm just saying, I think that they try to make it a good game for their player base, but ultimately their goal is to sell cards.
Yeah. I just think you have to look at this from a perspective of someone who's new to the game and just kind of learning it, to be able to say, there's a color identity that applies to these things based on the mana symbols. Oh, but it doesn't apply to these mana symbols because they're slightly different. Oh, but these mana symbols are in the text box, so it does apply to that one, even though these are... It's a lot of weird conflicting information on that. I think, honestly, just going to, like, the colors of the card makes a lot of sense.
I think that's fair. The only reason I'm saying no to that is because I want to keep my sister deck.
I'm not general. I'm just saying for the hybrid mana because it's still a red-green card.
Okay, here's where I am with that. Magic is already a complex game. Mm-hmm. And I think you are underselling people's ability to understand complex rules when you say for new players, let's not do that. Because it's the same idea of giving a newer player a bad deck because it's easier to play.
That's fair.
Right? Like, my sister, for example, she loved her raccoon deck, and she loves this idea of having a lot of things on the board and controlling a lot of things and having that, like, thought strategy. And right? And there's people who immediately start playing blue. I mean, they're wrong, but they do. Right? So, like, it's, I think limiting new players to they won't understand is unfair and doesn't look at the full range of people who start playing Magic and where they come from before.
I get that, and I agree new players can learn it, but there's a certain intuitive understanding of the rules that I think is helpful for this sort of thing.
I think that's
being able to identify things at a glance is really handy, and having a red-green card in your mono-green deck
I'm going to push back and say that new players are not going to be able to identify things as a glance anyway. I've been playing for 10 years and I cannot, so they will not be able to.
Well, that's because they keep doing alternate arts for everything. A different pet peeve of mine. I know, but they'd be able to look at a thing and be like, that's Llanowar Elf. Instead of being like, okay, which elf is this thing?
That's fair, valid.
It's,
Alright. Do you have anything left on your list?
I do. Broadly, the PlayStation Secret Lair is coming up next Monday. And this is 2 weeks after the Secret Lair with Furby, The Office, and a variety of other things, including Iron Maiden. And they're not really, like, scraping the bottom of the barrel with this, because I think there's a lot more to go, but they've definitely hit a threshold of a new type of things being brought into Magic here.
I'm going to ask you for a hot take. What is the bottom of the barrel?
I mean,
the Anthropology rock.
No, it's like directly competing properties. So this is Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh! Being brought into Magic. That's when it's like you've completely jumped the shark on what stuff is coming into the game.
I would argue they're already doing competing properties by fighting with Ravensburger. Because they've taken Marble, which is a Disney property.
Yes, yeah.
So I think I get what you're saying, like that, but they are already kind of doing that. There are other TCGs. I understand what you're saying because Pokemon and like Yu-Gi-Oh are much more out there, like and well known. I would argue they're already doing that. Yeah,
but in terms of the like weird out of world stuff, I mean, The Office is set in like a modern day, our world. Physical location. It's intentionally one of the most grounded shows that's been made. Like, it's built around that concept. And to bring that into Magic is very strange.
Sure, but I also like that they did it from Dwight's imagination. So it's not actually our world, it's Dwight's head, which is definitely a realm in Magic the Gathering.
Yes. And I will concede that there's a big difference between doing things as a Secret Lair versus doing it as a full Universes Beyond set. In Standard, which is wild to me, next year looks weird, but
Can you imagine if there was a full Furby set?
A full Furby set would be wild. Just the entire Furby plane. You step foot on it and all of the motion sensors go off at once.
I hate that so much for my brain.
Just absolute nightmare.
Like, you know, soap in your mouth to get rid of like bad words or whatever when you're a kid. But for my brain right now.
Yes, exactly. Just, you gotta clear the Furbies out.
I need a lint roller.
Lint
for
roller?
the fur, because Furbies.
I understand that you clear the Furbies out by bringing in God of War. Ghost of Tsushima. They take care of the Furbies real quick.
Oh my goodness.
Absolutely.
Okay, one thing I will say, last maybe hot take. I am not the biggest fan of Universes Beyond. I think it's cool. I am a hypocrite because I am so excited for Avatar: The Last Airbender. But something I will say is recently I was talking to somebody who has never played Magic before and has zero interest in playing Magic until I told her that there's a Marvel set and a Lord of the Rings set and started listing some of the Universes Beyond sets that have already come out. And she's like, oh, so you can make it whatever you want.
Yeah.
And I kind of
loved that.
No,
because the idea of like it growing with its audience and thinking especially of like younger players.
Yeah.
I think generally we think of Magic as like a game for adults because we're adults. But like you started playing when you were a kid. And our son plays at like 8 and he started when he was like what, 6?
Something like that. It was shortly after reading.
Yeah. Yeah. As soon as he learned to read, he started playing Magic. And so like my I know our timer's out and our bartender's gonna make us leave soon. But but yeah, I think there is something to be said about her reaction of, oh, this is for me. Yeah. In a way that I think traditional Magic has not always felt for people coming into this franchise or coming into the realm of nerddom, right? Because she's somebody who is maybe not someone who plays a lot of games, is not interested in kind of these traditional nerdy ideals, doesn't really play D&D, but like is really excited by the fact that she kind of has limitless creativity and can play with her favorite characters. And I think that that's special.
No, I agree. And it's amazing for bringing new players into the game and kind of getting them going. But like you said, she's not the kind of person that wants to play standard competitively.
That's true.
And so bringing it into those strict formats,
standard is hard.
That's where it gets weird.
Yeah. I think Magic, okay.
But that's a whole other topic. We don't have to dig into
we don't have time for that today.
Why standard is
Maybe I know what my topic is for next week.
Sure. Yeah. But our time is up. And I think that concludes our in-step. So I think it's time to move on to cleanup.
All right. Pass turn. See you next week for our next turn.
Bye.